In this tutorial, we're going to talk about ratios and proportions. And to get started, let's take a look at a definition. So, what exactly is a ratio? And it is a comparison of two quantities. And we can write ratios as a couple different things. We can say A to B, so write it out with words. We can say A colon B, that also means A to B, or we could write it like a fraction, A over B. But they're all read the same exact way. A to B, A to B, A to B. In terms of the very last way to write this, we just have to make sure that B is not 0, because we cannot divide by 0. So if you write a fraction like that, just make sure that B is not 0. Okay, so now what about the word proportion? What exactly does that mean? I know that you've seen this word before, but let's go ahead and define it one more time. And very simply, it's a statement that says two ratios are equal. So for example, I could say 1/2 is equal to 4/8, because 4 over 8 will also be reduced to 1/2. So they're the exact same thing. I could also solve a proportion by using cross multiplication, and this is something that you should be familiar with, but let's go ahead and do a quick example. Let's say I have 1/3 equals, and we're going to do x over 45. Okay, so the way we do cross product, the way that we solve these is we multiply the cross numbers. So I'm going to draw the first line here. So I'm going to do 1 times 45. Then I'm going to write my equal sign back down. And then I'm going to do the other cross product, which was x and 3. So I'm going to write 3 and x. Or x and 3. It really doesn't matter the way in which you write it right now. Okay, so let's go ahead and simplify this. So 1 times 45 is 45. And that should be equal to 3 times x, which is 3x. Now, how do I solve it from here? Well, in order to solve for x now, I'm going to divide both sides by 3, like so. These 3's cancel, and 45 divided by 3 is 15. And that's my answer. That's how we do cross multiplication. Now, some cross products can be kind of tricky, so let's take a look at a harder one. Okay, so here's our hard example. And the cross product property stays true. So let's take a look at the first cross product, which is going to be this y plus 3 and 4. Now, when you write this out, make sure that you use your grouping symbols, your parentheses, because y plus 3 I can write like this. Times 4 I can write like this. So if you observe this, notice that the y and the 3 individually are being multiplied by 4. That's the distributive property. So you want to be really careful about doing that. All right, I'm going to bring down my equal sign. If the black will work for me, come on. There we go. And the second cross product is going to be 8 and y. So I'm going to write 8y. And I don't have to worry about grouping on this side because nothing difficult is going on. So now that I've got everything planned out, let's go ahead and distribute the 4. So 4 times y is 4y plus, and then 4 times 3, which is 12, and that equals 8y. So now we solve this just like any normal equation. I'm going to subtract 4y from both sides, and that leaves me with 12 equals 4y. And then to solve this, divide both sides by 4. these 4's cancel, and then y is equal to 3. So if you get a more complicated looking proportion, just use your grouping symbols and it will make the problem a whole lot easier. So now the last thing that we want to talk about is something called scale drawings. Now if you used to, or if you've ever seen an old map on paper, not like on Google or anything like that, it always had a scale along with it because you can't put the actual size of the United States on one piece of paper. So what they do is something like this. So let's say that we have a map and points A, B, and C are cities and the lines in between them are roads. Okay? And on the scale it says that 1 inch on this map is the same exact thing as 10 miles in real life. Now let's say that the distance between A and B, so from A going to point B, let's say that that takes up 3 inches. Okay? So I could actually set up a proportion to help me with this. I know that you can do this in your head very easily, but I could say 1 inch is to 10 miles, and miles abbreviated as MI, is equal to 3 inches to what? And once again, I can use my cross multiplication properties. So 1 times x is just x, and 3 times 10 is 30. And of course I solved for distance, so my answer would be in miles. Don't ever forget to put a unit on your answer if the question needs one in the end, okay? And that's it. That concludes this tutorial.